Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we have an exciting one for you. For those that have caught our previous video, Marvel vs. DC, the James Gunn saga, we did promise you that we would be doing a longer, more in-depth discussion of Marvel versus DC as an entire universe. And today is that day.
Whoa! Yep. We made that last video. I could totally see this being a series for sure. It's one of those topics that I know fan bases of both sides just love to beat each other up over. So there's a lot of topics that we can dive into for sure.
There is. This is definitely, if we left the camera rolling, we'd probably have a 4-day video. And we'd just be sitting here, full facial stubble, all of that, just going, because we can talk about this literally, and we have before all day long on this. So we're going to try to keep this as short and concise and to the point as possible. I know for me, particular, I'll only speak for myself. I can go off on some rants and some tangents sometimes, and next thing you know, I'm completely away from topic here. So I'm going to try my best not to do that. Mantis, if I start, I need you to play that music that they play when they have to get people to speed up their speech. You know,
yes.
we got to play that or something if I start going on too much.
I'll just reach through and just like stop it.
That'll work. We'll do that. Okay. So when we talk about Marvel versus DC, the showdown of which this episode is, we are going to now go into the overall comparison versus what's our favorite versus what we like the most about one versus the other, on all scales. Okay, not just the movies, but the literally the comic books, animated shows, and everything else like that.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. I currently, I mean, honestly, I mean, this is all going to be childhood type stuff, right? Like, if we're talking about the current state of the comics in animation of DC and Marvel, like, I just don't, and maybe it's a nostalgia thing, because right, like, it not even with regard to pop culture, really, it's kind of like everyone yearns for things of their childhood or their past, right? They have fond memories of, and of course, comics and comic book characters are not immune to that. The current state of DC, we kind of touched on with the James Gunn stuff, and at this point, it's kind of up in the air. I know, I haven't seen Flash, so I can't tell you anything. But that was honestly kind of, I think, before James Gunn got involved, he kind of made probably some decisions on it, but I think that was pretty much done. So we don't really know at this point as far as the new their movie franchise is going to go. And quite honestly, I haven't read any DC comics as of late anyway. So, Marvel, on the other hand, they're kind of sputtering, I think, on all fronts. So I think it's kind of up in the air at this point. You know, DC has a chance to take the reins here and just take over. But,
well, and that's what I'm most excited about, right? I will say this, if we're talking about the current state of affairs, but just some headlines that I saw, they said The Flash is like one of the biggest flops in superhero movie history. Now, that could be because of everything that happened with Ezra Miller. That could be because a lot of people know they're wanting to just reboot the franchise anyway. So what is the point of this? We don't know when it does come out to streaming. We did mention this in the previous video. We will be doing a review / discussion of that entire movie, and
which
probably more.
I think is in 30 days.
In 30 days? Okay.
I think that's how bad it is. Like, or maybe I'm misreading it. Maybe that was Indiana Jones. Oh shit, I can't remember. Sorry.
It's okay, because the last Indiana Jones wasn't the greatest either. So it's in the same it's in the same situation. But we will be doing an in-depth review of that and kind of the overall, the DC as itself, as how basically the ending of the DCEU, so to call it. So we will be doing on that. Yes, right. The death and return, hopefully, and much like that comic book, which was one of the most popular comic books of all time. And I think with that one debut in 1992 or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
That was the highest grossing comic of that actual year's, like 6 million copies sold. So hopefully the rebranding of the universe to the DCU will get the same thing, right? We'll see this whole new era of DC come out while Marvel is kind of, I think they've kind of lost some steam a bit.
The thing Marvel has right now too, though, that they could do, they're in kind of I don't know if you look at like a graph, but it's like they hit the top with Avengers Endgame, right? Like that was kind of their peak, and then they kind of slid down. They do have a chance to hit like a plateau of good stuff here, and they can build in new characters and story arcs that people aren't familiar with. We always talk about this, that there are untapped, mainly and particularly with the minority groups that feel like they're not represented in comics and pop culture. Like there are so many good ones that they could do, not just in Marvel, but also DC, but strictly with Marvel, since they're kind of coming off all their main, down from the main group of superheroes that they use. There's so many untold stories that they could do that are great. Like people want something new. They're tired of the same old stuff, right? Like I am. I want something fucking new.
Well, and that's the 100% hit the nail on the head right there. Right? This is the time for that. But supposedly, and again, it's speculation at this point, Robert Downey Jr., there's talks of him coming back as Iron Man. They've been talking to Chris Evans about coming back as Captain America. Supposedly Robert Downey Jr. was seen on the set of the new Captain America movie. So it's like, what happens is you're trying to inject all of this woke culture into these movies. Now they flopped, and now you're just reverting back to your popular people, your Robert Downey Jr., your Chris Evans and stuff, instead of pushing forward, cutting all of that out, and just make some good characters, right? Give us a new Blade. Give us that Spawn movie you've been promising us for almost a decade. You can still do this where you have, like we've talked about before, the minority groups and things like that. Those characters that have not been represented well in your movies so far. Do it.
Or shows. Yeah, like any of it.
Yeah, or
like,
TV.
Quite honestly. Yeah, I mean, they just don't. It's like an afterthought, and I don't understand it. I really don't. Like, I don't know. Is Spawn DC or is that Marvel?
I want to say, I'm pretty sure it's Marvel.
Maybe it's independent. Either way, like I agree with you. Like there is a Spawn movie, and it's bad, but it's good in a bad way. I guess I don't know how to explain that. It's like, tell me good news in a bad way.
Maybe if you tell me the bad news in a good way, it won't sound so bad.
But the character isn't represented well, quite honestly, in that old movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch the original Spawn movie because it's funny. John Leguizamo's in there, and he's hilarious. I think he plays the fat clown great. But that movie is horrible. It looked like someone made that CGI on their calculator or something. Like it was completely god awful. But Blade is another one. I love Blade. I love the original Blade movie. I like all the Blade movies. They're all great. They could turn that into a TV show. That'd be a great TV show. There's just so many things of new stories that they could tell. And I think they're doing exactly what DC did in this Flash movie, pulling on that nostalgia. And I know it was written in there. It's probably part of Flashpoint to a degree, bringing in Michael Keaton and having him be that nostalgia thread that they're trying to pull on to get people in and watch the movie, right? I just don't like that idea, what you're talking about with Captain America and bringing Robert Downey Jr. back. I don't like that. I want all new, keep all of that. That shit's done. It's done.
I will give you, if you have a flashback and you need him to come in or Captain or Chris Evans to come in to record a brief little clip of a flashback of something back in time, I'm okay. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Yes, it's new, but it's not current. It's a flashback. That's fine. I'll give you that. But to just bring them back, because you're making their deaths meaningless, right? You're
Yeah,
making
that's a
all of that. I
problem.
mean, you basically would just ruin Endgame is what you're going to do just to try to get another cash grab.
Yeah.
I think Blade would be a great anime, or not animated, but a great television series.
Oh shit,
Spawn,
it'd be a
I
great
feel
animated
like
too.
Spawn, I feel like would be difficult. You'd be running the same problem as Green Lantern. You'd have to have a high special effects budget if you're going to do a TV
Yeah.
show. So
I agree. I don't like Spawn as a TV show. Blade you could do as a TV show. Spawn is just because of the supernatural elements that it has in that, and the crazy shit that he can do. It's that to me that's more of a movie production, quite honestly. But I
yeah,
mean, I don't know.
I agree with that. It would be great to see though. So
Yeah.
since we're talking about that, what is obviously we've said before, at least I've said before, I'm a DC fan. I mean, I love
Mhm.
Marvel too, but as far as number one is going to be DC for me. Is yours DC?
Oh yeah. Not even close.
All
I
right,
mean, I don't hate Marvel. It's just I like DC more. Yeah.
then who's your favorite hero and favorite villain of DC?
I mean I know yours is the same as mine, and it's Superman on the DC side for hero. Um, it's just the most that I identify with. I like his patriotic, and his all good. He's the patriot, like he's the poster boy of what a man is supposed to be and idolize and heroize in America. That's the reason I like him. It's got great storytelling. He's very strong. His powers are awesome, but he also has an interesting weakness. So the best part about it too is a lot of and most people know this, but like he's an alien, right? I mean, he's an alien. And I know we're kind of getting into the weeds here, but kind of one of the reasons I do like him and one of the depictions of Kryptonians is from Man of Steel and how they did the beginning of that movie, with all of like the advanced technology on this separate planet. Like they kind of go into it in the original Superman, but to me that looks like Antarctica and stupid. The way they did it in Man of Steel looked awesome, like an advanced civilization. Like that's cool shit. You kind of lose sight of that when you watch like Smallville and Superman movies. You only get it at the beginning, like you realize he's an alien because he came from outer space, right? But like he seems so human, you know.
It reminded me of Ark, the game Ark, when you're on actually Krypton there, because it's like you have this advanced technology, but there's a dinosaur here. Like they had all this
Right.
advanced technology, but they had these creatures they fly on. So
Right.
like it kind of
Yeah,
reminded
yeah.
me of Ark. But I know the TV show Krypton did a great
Yeah.
job of kind of bringing that
I agree.
around, where you could see that they were an advanced civilization, but they made mistakes. The original movies,
Mhm.
it's like, okay, you're in a block of ice and then other people are in a window. That was
Yeah.
kind of like,
Yeah, that was
you know,
it. Yeah.
so
And as far as villains go, I mean, I'm gonna switch over to. I don't know where you are on this, but like Joker for me is awesome.
I'm gonna make this pencil disappear. It's gone.
And it's partially due to several people that have played the character, and I like pretty much all of them, aside from the Suicide Squad. And it really wasn't his fault. It's not the fault of I'm gonna forget the actor that played him because I'm losing my track of
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto. Yeah, not his fault. He's a great actor. It just the role is just it was written shit. So I'm not going to fault him for that. But however, I'm just basing off the performances. I think the characters that were written in the comics are great for him. The depictions of him even in the damn video games, he's great. You have Mark Hamill voicing him in the animated series. You have Jack Nicholson playing kind of the same character to a degree in the original Tim Burton Batman. And then you get it taken to a whole new level of crazy psychotic, like really fucked up in Batman Begins, or not Batman Begins, The Dark Knight. So there's so many depictions of this character throughout comics and movies and animation and TV that it's to me it's a great character as a villain for sure.
Okay, now to be fair, I'm pretty sure when Jack Nicholson was playing that, he was just playing himself because
That's true.
he's always been a little
That's
bit
true.
crazy. But I did love him as the Joker.
He's yeah.
So I get it. There's a lot of layers to peel off there on the Joker there. And they've done.
He's a
some
very
other
complicated villain too. Is very good too. I like that about him.
See, I would still agree with you with Superman as my favorite hero because to have all of that power, and we've seen, for those of you who haven't watched The Boys, kind of gives you a small glimpse of what happens if Superman wasn't so good and wasn't raised so well.
What happens if I don't know, I do this?
What do you
Brightburn.
do? Brightburn. I wish they would have done a little more with that series, but
did James Gunn do that one?
He had part of it.
Sorry, I'm pretty sure he was the producer or something on it. Maybe the director.
I think he was. I think he was the director on it. I have to go back and look at my notes of the James Gunn saga because I'm pretty sure I had written that down. But it's the person who struggles with, and Man of Steel does a great job showing it. Right, he can't fit in with the way society is because just people are just kind of awful nowadays.
Yeah.
And he's trying to be good, but he's got the power to just basically rule the world if he wanted to. So I love that he embodies the best of humanity, even though he's not human. For villains, it's Darkseid for me.
I told you once, Superman. If you would not be my knight, you would be my pawn.
I see you're a man of your word.
I am many things, Kal-El. You couldn't begin to imagine half of them. But for now, I shall take the role of executioner.
Just because Darkseid is hyper intelligent, but he's single-minded, man. He has one goal, and that is to get the anti-life equation. And he's ruthless in that pursuit. And I'm sometimes that way in goals that I have. Like I get very single-minded, and I'll do anything to get to that goal. I just don't have the cool I-beams.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of mirrors to a degree Thanos, doesn't he? I mean, like they're kind of both focused on one thing, that they want to fix. They don't care how they get it. And I mean, I guess, Darkseid's more evil, if you want to say innate evil, but Thanos really wasn't technically evil at heart.
You're quasi-evil. You're semi-evil. You're the margarine of evil. You're the Diet Coke of evil. Just 1 calorie, not evil enough.
He just wanted to change this because he thought it would be better for the universe or whatever.
So, and there's where I think actually on both Marvel and DC, it gets a little cloudy, especially when you're talking about the cinematic universes of both of those, right?
Sure.
So, and this kind of, brings it back to what we're talking about. Let's say the origins of both of these franchises, right? Obviously, Darkseid and Thanos are very, very similar. Mm-hmm. Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't watched have you watched the Eternals?
No, I've not seen the Eternals. I've not seen it. Should I watch that?
I would say now, is it great? It's not great, but it's good. Okay.
Okay.
And there's some story. I was getting ready to say something. I'm not going to right now because I don't want to spoil it. But
that's okay. I can earmuff it.
There is some storyline that actually ties in and makes the whole Thanos and what his mission was makes more sense, right? It gives you a bigger, it kind of big pictures it for you. Similar to, again, like if you ever get to the origins of Darkseid and what his goal is, yes, they are very, very similar. However, Darkseid was first. DC Comics in general, I mean, DC's been around since 1937, 38. I know Superman came out in June of 38, Action Comics 1, which I do love. If you haven't watched our reaction yet of Superman and Lois episode 1, they pay a great homage to the cover of Action Comics 1 where he's in that older suit and he's catching the green car and he's setting it down. They do a great job on that. But DC's always kind of been first. Like it came out about, I want to say it was like 1930 something. I can't remember, 34 maybe. And Marvel didn't come around until around 39. And it was Timely Publications before it was Marvel, actually.
Marvel, okay.
But that's who it started out about. Again, you had Superman came out in 1938. The Presence, he came out in February 1940. The Spectre came out in February 1940 as well. And you didn't have that the same version. Basically, the One Above All in Marvel is basically like the Presence. They're basically the God. What the Bible would say God was. But the One Above All didn't come out until 1976.
So they kind of waited on in Marvel. They kind of waited to tailor that into their universe, the Marvel universe, if you want to say.
Yeah, it was a lot more in the background. It was never mentioned, and then boom, here you go. I think it was Doctor Strange in like April of 1976 that they introduced the One Above All, who's the most powerful character.
Something to keep in mind too nowadays, because I don't know. I mean, let us know in the comments below. Like, do any of you actually buy and read comics? Because the reason I ask that is because, again, we're talking about shit from the 30s and 40s here. Like, people didn't have TVs. Like, people weren't making superhero movies. There wasn't streaming. People weren't making this stuff. It was all via comic books. And people that read comic books, I don't think were very popular. Like, they were, the outcasts. It's, people that were reading normal books were, okay. If you were reading comic books, I feel like, I'm pretty sure I read this somewhere, that you were kind of looked down upon. And I'm curious now, like, I don't know if people even consume this type of pop culture stuff in print anymore. If it's just straight up, was that Zordon calling? Or?
Oh yes, that was.
Yeah.
I'll have to call him back.
But I think most people nowadays consume this stuff through movies and through TV shows. Like, it's crazy.
Well, and even that does come out in comics. Like, I've had a couple people tell me, well, it was in the comics. You look, and it was from 2 years ago, right? I'm like, the comics nowadays, same thing with the TV shows. They change so drastically depending on how culture is going, right? The wokeness gets injected into there. Again, we're talking about comics from the 30s and 40s, and these characters stayed this way. They stayed the same throughout all of this span of time, and they just came up with these great and interesting storylines that always just I got to know what happens next. I got to know what happens next. And now it's just like, oh, well, no, we're going to go with whatever's popular. It's cool. We want to make Superman gay, or we want to do this and make his son gay, or something like that.
I think they wanted to appeal to what was interesting and what appealed to everyone. Like, the stories in these old comics, and even not too recently, I mean, like 15, 20 years ago, like, everyone can enjoy them, right? I feel like the last couple of years, majorly the last 4 or 5 years, within the last 4 or 5 years, the writing has just been geared towards a small, and when I say small, I mean very small subset of people that actually enjoy the way that the writers are writing these books. Like you were saying, like making, bringing in political views into there, or, extraneous beliefs or religious beliefs, like, into the forefront of these storylines. And I don't want it either way. Like, I just want an interesting story. I don't want you to pander to me. Don't try and pitch me on a political opponent or a political ideologue. I don't care about any of that. I want interesting stories.
If I'm picking up a comic, especially, but it's the same thing with my shows and movies. But if I'm picking up a comic, I'm using that as an escape from regular reality, right? Sure. I don't want to see it embedded in, the bullshit going on nowadays in that. Arrow in season 6 or 7, they do one, and it's like the villain of the season was like, we're going to make Star City great again.
Let's make Star City great again.
Really?
Right.
Come on. Like,
Right.
don't do that. Don't ruin this stuff. Like, we're going into such a great place now. Spoiler alert for a lot of things here, but we got a brief glimpse of Darkseid in movie. We got to see the Spectre in the Arrowverse. That's probably the most powerful character they've ever shown in the DC universe, in television or movie thus far. And then when you look at with Marvel, we got to see Zeus and some of the other gods. We've gotten to see Eternity in Thor: Love and Thunder, and very few people will actually pick up on this, but it's 2 times now, Thor: Love and Thunder and then Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. You got to see the statue of the Living Tribunal, which thus far would be Marvel's most powerful character in all of Marvel in the MCU. You just see his statue. He's got the 3 heads, but he is the most powerful character, even more so than even Eternity, that we've ever seen. And probably, I would say Living Tribunal, in my opinion, is more powerful than the Spectre, but it's kind of, they're very, very similar to one another. Like, the Spectre's basically God's wrath, and the Living Tribunal from Marvel is God's judgment. And they do very, very similar things in the comics. So you're getting to see these characters, and that's great, right? Just don't mess it up. Let it be about that. The Eternals brought the Celestials in, and there's so much rich backstory for those who don't know how the Marvel universe, not the cinematic universe, but the Marvel universe itself come about. The Celestials were one of the key elements of it. They're basically the first race of beings in the current universe.
Well, I mean, did the Living Tribunal have enough diversity on their tribunal? Because I feel like if they don't, they should probably rewrite all of that.
Well, Living Tribunal has 3 heads, so maybe it's one of each, right?
No, but there has to. Do you know how many genders there are? There's like 1,000, so we need to have one of each, just so it's fair.
So the only problem is there's only one Living Tribunal, right? So I don't know how we do that. That's something
I don't care. I want to see represented,
right? Like I said, maybe each head they can be a they, because there's 3 heads or 3 faces at least. He's 1 head but 3 faces of the Living Tribunal. But
one of them's a Z,
a Zer, a Z,
a Z. Yeah, gotta be
something like that. Yeah. But I was excited with that. I'm excited to see where they can go with that. Now, that gets a lot into the weeds of need to know the comics and the origin. So for just regular MCU fans, that's why a lot of people didn't like Eternals. Is it's not going to make a lot of sense to you if you don't know the source material. That's where the animated shows come in, right? Like, that's what started it. If everybody remembers, and most of you probably don't, before Iron Man released in 2008, they released an animated movie of Iron Man to try to introduce.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was to try to introduce people to the character before they launched the movie, right? So now it wasn't just coming out of left field. But again, usually the only people going to watch the animated movies were your diehard fans. Kind of like with DC. DC does great in their animated movies. I don't know what the hell they're doing in their movies, but the animated, they do amazing job in. They have so many good. Justice League War is a great one that also has Darkseid in it. They did great. And even back in the day, I loved Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
X-Men. You had the X-Men cartoon in the early 90s as well.
X-Men was great. Yeah, I'm with you on that. The X-Men on the Marvel side, X-Men and Spider-Man, awesome animated series. On the DC,
the Spider-Man animated back in the day.
On the DC side, it's you could kind of tell they were made by the exact same animation team, but the Adventures of Superman and Batman the Animated Series, both. I mean, I would say arguably the opening theme to Batman the Animated Series
is iconic.
Is awesome. Like, it's so good. It's so good. And then they, all those episodes are great because they kind of, it's really funny. Like the animated series did what Smallville did. Like especially in the first season, like the first season, every episode was like a new villain was introduced in every episode, right? Like it was the monster of the week, as they would call it, right? In Supernatural and the other shows, like you had a monster of the week in this episode. Like it's so good. If you don't, like, go out and buy both of those on DVD, Blu-ray, whatever you can buy it on, and watch them because they're great.
I have Batman the Animated Series on the full collection. I've got the Superman the Animated Series and the Justice League animated series. I've got those as well because, again, great stuff. For those of you, again, spoiler alert, if you remember in the Crisis on Infinite Earths, we get to see Kevin Conroy finally actually play Bruce Wayne live when he was the voice of Batman in the animated series. Like, for everybody, kind of like how Mark Hamill's People's Joker voice, Kevin Conroy was our Batman voice. R.I.P. No longer with us, but at least we got to see him on the screen actually playing Batman, or basically Bruce Wayne, before he passed. So that was another great thing to see for people who are love the old animated series.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed what they did with him, but it was okay. It was a little odd. And again, he was an old dude, right? Like but
I wish they would have taken it like a Batman Beyond kind of thing, like where they see him, but he's got a younger, even the Luke kid, if you wanted to make him like basically be the Terry McGinnis or whatever, of the Batman Beyond. If you wanted to make him that just for the crossover, that'd have been cool.
Sure.
Play it that way. I would have liked to have seen that. But he could still be against, the Kryptonians. You could have done it like that. I don't know. Yeah, it wasn't a great ending for him, but it was great to see him.
But it was it was good that they put him in there, and it was I agree.
It's another one of those. Now, maybe you don't want to start the entire Arrowverse, which also, guys, if you haven't seen, we do have up on YouTube already right now, as the time of this video is being recorded. We do have our reaction to the pilot episode of Arrow. And if you guys love it, please let us know, because we will continue to do more of that series. But if you don't want to start an entire whole universe worth of shows, because you're going to have Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, all of that good stuff, I would definitely at least check out the crossover, the Crisis on Infinite Earths. They did put it in a set of just those 5 episodes. It does span 5 different television shows. I love what CW was trying to do, but it is definitely a crossover event worth, because for people like me and like Mantis, there's a lot of nostalgia in there. Great,
that's really what
crossover.
Yep, it's good stuff.
So, all right, I think, I mean, again, we can talk about this for. I could keep going until tomorrow.
We'll continue. This is the Marvel vs. DC Showdown is an ongoing series for us.
Yes.
So
it is going to be.
We'll continue through this.
Don't want to do too much, and again, we can get off in the weeds on something that we actually want to do a whole nother video on. Again, love them both. Love DC more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see where they're going, but please, what I do want to know, let us know down in the comments which one you love most and who's your favorite character / villain. I want to know what everybody else thinks and kind of see where everybody else is at on that.
Yeah, and also, who's your favorite supporting character? Because most of these superheroes and or villains, you can even pick a villain that has a supporting, I don't call him a henchman, but he's kind of like a henchman or a supporting character.
You just want to pick Harley Quinn.
I'm just you don't want to talk about it. But that's a good one. Yeah. But that's a good example. So put that as well, because I'm curious as to people's thoughts on those.
Because sometimes that sidekick doesn't get all the credit they deserve. Right?
They don't, and they're important. Damn it!
Lugging all the bombs and everything else around.
I know.
They just get dropped like third period English. It's just not fair.
So. I don't know.
All right, guys. I think that's going to be it for this episode. Again, we will continue this series. If you've made it this far with us, we do appreciate it. Please consider giving this video a like and subscribing and checking out some more of our content because we have a lot more on the way.
Yeah. Keep in touch, and for sure, don't forget to put your comments down in the comment section. We do read all those. So, yeah.
All right. Until next time, guys, we will catch you later.
Later.